National Geographic and the Times-Picayune. They forecast the apocalypse, said it was coming soon. Preparations must be made, they said. Now is the time. It was years ago they shouted. Inaction was a crime. They said the dikes must be improved and wetlands must be saved. But Washington decided instead they should be paved. Because malls were more important than people's lives. So put some gold dust in your eyes and hope no
Bringing
storm
peace and
arrives.
social justice issues in your living room, piece by piece. I'm Jared Sandersfeld, and I'm joined by Yasser Abudaga this evening. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
As you said, my name is Yasser Abudaga. I am originally from Gaza. I've been living in the United States for 17 years now, and I still have connection back in Gaza. My family is still living there, and I still have a lot of feeling to what's going on in Gaza and the suffering of the people there. And I'm always praying for peace in that region of the world.
So you still have family currently in Gaza?
Yes. My parents still live there, and I have a brother and 4 sisters that they still live there.
Have you been in contact with them at all?
Yes, I've been in contact with them in the last 3 weeks with the conflict going on, and it was hard for me to be away from them in this terrible situation, and it's kind of hard for me to sit and watch what's going on and kind of being afraid that I will get that phone call that says somebody of my family has been hurt or killed with the bombing that is not discriminating between civilians and militant or fighters.
So Gaza is a highly populated area, and for those who are watching locally can understand Gaza being a region kind of is east to west, kind of as wide as Corville to Iowa City, and as far north as Cedar Rapids. That basically comprises about the land area of where Gaza is, only with over a million people populating this area.
Gaza Strip is about 150 square mile and had 1.5 million people living there. So it's one of the highest density areas in the world. And the thing is, most of the people that they live in Gaza now are either refugees or descendants of refugees that they were expelled from their homes within what's now Israel. About probably more than 1 million of them are refugees and living in a refugee camps for 60 years now. And that's one of the main problems about Gaza is the refugees, that they are not allowed to go back to their homes, and the Israelis trying to impose a solution on them by not letting them have the option to go back to their homes within Israel.
Is that how your family and yourself when you
No,
were there?
my family, we were originally from Gaza Strip. We are from a town called, a small village called Abasan in the southeast of the Gaza Strip, about 1 mile from the Israeli border.
And so what have they told you about this current conflict, since you have been keeping in touch? What have they been saying?
Yeah, it is frightening. It's frightening for everybody. The bombing was not discriminating between anybody, kids, women, children, older men. It has just been bombardment day and night. As you know, during the 3 weeks bombardment, more than 300 people were killed. 1,300 people are killed, 400 of them children, and most of them are civilians or civil servants, and more than 5,000 people were injured. A lot of them has severe injuries, so that tells you that nobody was immune and nobody was safe. And even before that, Gaza Strip was under siege for more than 3 years, which was crippling siege that did not allow basic humanitarian aid into Gaza. And before that, during the last year, 2008, there was about 200 Palestinians died because of lack of medication coming into Gaza Strip. So the situation was really bad, and then with the bombardment and the war make it even worse, and a lot of people that they survived the bombardment, they were struggling to survive the food shortages, the electricity shortages, the medication shortages, and all the basic humanitarian needs that coming into Gaza Strip because of the Israeli blockade into the Gaza Strip.
So has your family been affected at a heightened rate as a result of this conflict? Was there difficulty getting a call out to you?
It was at times because all the infrastructure was targeted during the bombardment, including cell phone towers, of course electricity and water. So it was difficult at times to, of course, landlines were almost collapsed at that time. So the only way to communicate was through cell phones, and the towers that they remained, they were overloaded with phone calls that it was difficult to get through. But that wasn't the worst of the worries that we had, because bombardment that was around them, and actually 2 kids of the next door neighbors were targeted by a missile and killed. They were 11 and 14, and they were just playing in the backyard. There was no missile activities around them. There was no combatant, and nothing is going on. So that tells you that the war was not really targeting Hamas or the missile launchers, but targeting the population of Gaza, just to punish them for their choice of electing Hamas as their government, and just to subjugate the Palestinian people, say they will accept the Israeli view of how to solve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
And so, Hamas being a militant organization, some view it as also a government faction within this region, how do you feel that the Palestinian people, or the people of Gaza, view Hamas at this point?
Well, before Hamas is a militant, and that's what everybody's described Hamas. Hamas was a social network of they established a social network of services that Gaza was in need for when they were under the Israeli occupation, because Gaza is under the Israeli occupation for more than 40 years, and there was no basic services that was supplied by the occupation. So during or through charity networks that Hamas, or at that time it was just the Islamic Charity Network that supplied for the people of Gaza, that how the popularity of Hamas started is the social network that they established from schools, medical centers, university, all that social network that they established that made Hamas popular in Gaza, because of the vacuum that the Israeli occupation created in the social network. And then after that, also the Palestinian Authority that was brought in, and it was led by the corrupt Fatah faction that was basically lining their pockets with the aid money that comes from outside. So before Hamas is a militant group, Hamas is part of the Palestinian in Gaza, and they only picked up arms after the first Intifada, which was aimed at ending the occupation and just trying to bring about the end of the occupation and bring a resolution to the 40 plus years of suffering of the Palestinians.
And with that understanding, Israel's involvement militarily in this conflict cited that those who support, whether it's the social infrastructure, the government infrastructure within Gaza, along with Hamas, would be targets of this attack. And so, in a way, does that go along with the idea of going with such a broad conflict in Gaza, focusing on the basics of how Hamas is inveterate in the Gaza region?
Which is a bogus thing, bogus things to say, because that makes the Hamas rockets into Israel legitimate targets, because they are part of the occupation government of Israel, and any target in Israel, then it will be a legitimate target, the same way that the Israelis are saying that any target in Gaza is a legitimate target, and this is a flagrant violation of a human right and Geneva Conventions, because any of the target building and targets that they bombed is civil infrastructure, like the mosque, like schools, hospitals, UN, even the UN headquarters was bombed, and does not have anything to do with the government of Hamas or the government of the Palestinian Authority in Gaza. So it's basically what the Israelis are trying to accomplish with this war is to subjugate the Palestinian people to the maximum pain, so they will actually break their will and just accept the Israeli solution of the conflict, which basically is pushing the Palestinian into enclaves and then create a discontinued Bantustan-like Palestinian state, while the Israelis will continue control the vast majority of the Palestinian land, which will be only for Jewish use, and remove the Palestinian rights to their own land.
In a consistent supply of UN and refugee aid to this region, without people seeing that they reach their highest economic or what have you, their own potential in this region.
Right. And that's the thing is the Israelis think that the people that they are dependent on supply humanitarian supplies from outside, people that they don't have strong government, they don't have strong infrastructure, they are basically reduced to a ration dependent people, are easy to dominate, and that's basically what they wanted to do with the Palestinian people, and that's what they did with the Palestinian Authority before in the West Bank during the Iron Wall operation that they did in the West Bank, by weakening the Palestinian Authority, by sieging Yasser Arafat in his compound in 2002, and then killing most of the strong leaders of the Palestinian Authority, and then put the rest of them in jails. That way they created a void in the Palestinian Authority, and that's what led to the election of the Hamas, because the people looked around and said that's what the Israelis are doing. They're trying to marginalize the Palestinian voice and just impose their own solution on the Palestinians. And that's what they're trying to do with this attack. This is to marginalize the Palestinian voice in the Gaza Strip and marginalize Hamas, so they will have weaker leaders that they will accept what has been imposed on them by the Israelis.
So about refugee aid, my understanding is around 75% of those within Gaza register for this aid. Does your family do this as well? Do they receive aid?
My family, and that's one of the other stuff that they're doing too, is the Israelis they refused, of course, to deal with Hamas, so they only allow the aid coming in to the UNRWA, which is the agency that deals with the refugees. So the 25% of the people that they live there, that they're originally there, they don't get anything from outside. So they either have to live with what they have. A lot of them, they have land that they grow and cultivate, and some of them they have to go and buy those rations from whatever left over. But there is no way for them with the tighter grip of the Israelis on the borders to do any outside business with the rest of the world and get any supplies and any decent medication or food or any just basic human supplies.
And this block on supplies is recognizable in this conflict when, from Mediterranean Sea, medical supplies by waterways were trying to reach Gaza. And
right, and that's the thing is when Israelis claims that they ended the occupation when they withdrew the settlements and their troop from Gaza in 2005, but the fact is that Israel remained a strong grip on Gaza Strip by controlling the land border, the sea border, and the air space of Gaza, and still the UN consider Gaza under occupation. Even the U.S., the strongest ally of Israel, still considered Gaza under occupation, and Israel has not been allowing any free movement of goods to Gaza Strip, either from land or sea or air. Actually, before they left Gaza Strip, they destroyed the only airport that was in Gaza Strip. The Israelis did, to make sure that there is nothing will get into Gaza Strip, and they're saying that this was imposed to weaken Hamas, but this actually embargo was, or the tight grip on things getting into Gaza Strip was even before Hamas was elected, right after the withdrawal from the troops, the Israeli troops from Gaza Strip, by virtually restricting any movement and everybody knows, at least the U.S. government know, because the Palestinian Authority had to, before Hamas was elected, had to come in and beg the Secretary of State Rice for Israel to ease the blockade and ease the movement of goods into Gaza Strip, so they will have a decent economy, and they have protested that to the World Bank multiple times, but the Israelis continued their blockade to the Gaza Strip.
And so other means have manifested themselves, such as the tunnels. It's viewed generally, it seems, in U.S. media that this is a route for Hamas to obtain weaponry, but that isn't as accurate, my understanding is.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the tunnels were the only lifeline to Gaza Strip with the blockade. Israelis said that they will not allow a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and by that they will allow a couple of truckload of food or medicine once in a while, and before, and they're saying that we are supplying them with food, but that's not enough, because Gaza Strip were, before the blockade, were getting about 400 to 500 truckload every day, that just basically minimum to keep things going, and now they are getting, every time that the border get opened, which is sometimes once every week, once every 10 days, and they get only 17 to 20 truckload of material, so that's basically less than 1% of the need of the population. So people had to find another way, and one of the ways that they found is to dig those tunnels into Egypt and bring in supplies, and you will be amazed how much of those things are coming in through the tunnels, and what kind of stuff, from medication to gas bottles to food, of course, to even livestock that are coming through, and people. Some people are stranded because with the blockade, it's not only the goods that they're not allowed to get in and out. People are not letting them get in and out, and a lot of people that they needed medical attention that they can't get in Gaza Strip, they couldn't leave, and that's why you have about 250 people that died just in 2008 because of the lack of medication and lack of medical supplies that they needed in Gaza Strip. So this was the only lifeline to Gaza to live. And this is just barely minimum that minimum supplies that they needed to continue living. I'm not saying that there was not Hamas smuggling, but that's probably it's just a side effect of the blockade. If there was a legal way to get those supplies into Gaza Strip, then you wouldn't find the tunnels. And or at least if there's tunnels, and then there is a legitimate reason to close them down.
I found it fascinating. At one point, I believe it was in 2007, when the wall bordering Egypt in Gaza was actually there was an opening created, and people would come back to Gaza with such basic supplies like hammers and so forth, or just food, and it's fascinating to see.
Right.
You know,
when you have 1.5 million people live in 150 square mile, a desert-like land that does not have a lot of resources, and most of the resources was depleted from water resources and other resources during the Israeli occupation, and then the blockade into the water that even the fishermen can go out and catch fish to eat, then you are creating really bad situation, and you're creating a famine-like situation, and some human rights groups describe what's the famine in Gaza and the malnutrition in Gaza similar to sub-Saharan Africa, which has never been that way. Just because of the lack of supplies and the closure on Gaza Strip. So when the wall breached, not a lot of people, I would say probably 90% of the people in Gaza went to Egypt to bring supplies back, and I know my brother did, and he did not bring missiles or guns, or he just brought cheese and bought a shoes for himself to wear, because his shoes wore off, and there is no shoes or any clothing coming in. He brought basic food materials just to keep them alive, and one of the things that he found and he bought is a drill. As you said, people are buying hammers. He bought actually a drill and brought it home, because the one that we had at home broke, and there's no replacement. So people are in really bad situation. If you have an enclave that is been under crippling siege for 3 years, people will run out of stuff, and they need supplies badly.
And touching back on Hamas again, I get this impression that how oppressed Gaza is, that Hamas is a represented entity that grows out of this oppression, that the idea that there is rocket fire taking place is one option that comes about when people are oppressed.
Right.
And how accurate do you think that
I guess that's very accurate because the Palestinian when they were under siege, when they were under occupation, it seems like not a lot of the international community cared of what's going on until the Palestinians start arms struggle against the Israelis, and when the Israelis start dying, then the international community start paying attention. It's just like they're telling them that the Israeli lives are more valuable than the Palestinians, and the Palestinians felt that this is the only way to get back at the occupation, at the siege, and at the war crimes that is being committed against them with the silence and support of the international community. So even though the rocket fire that Hamas is using is highly inaccurate, and it's not very destructive, and it wouldn't, as the Israeli claims that Hamas want to destruct Israel is far from true, because those rockets are just they don't have that destruction power, and during the 10 years of those rockets, about 13 Israeli were killed by them. It's just a way for the Palestinians to show their frustrating with the occupation, the frustration with the oppression that they are under, and just to kind of grab the attention of the world that we are here and we are under occupation, and we are under the grip of a military power that is so huge and so dominant, and that we need attention, and we need a solution for this. So and that's the thing is the most of the fighters of Hamas are people that they're coming from refugee camps, that they are seeing that they are living in refugee camps for 60 years now, and seeing their homes, they're being occupied by people that they are coming from Europe and coming from elsewhere, while they have to suffer through the crowdedness of the refugee camps, the underdevelopment of their communities. So this seems like the only way to grab the attention of the world. It's not a pretty way to do it, but that's the only option they have, since the Israelis sealed them into the Gaza Strip, and nobody can get in or out, or the international community just does not seem that they care much about what's going on in there, unless there's violence. Unfortunately, that's the way things work. It's just if there's violence, and most of the time, if it's violence against the Palestinians, it's okay, and unfortunately, you hear in the media that it's when the Palestinians are dying and no Israelis are dying, that they call it lull and violence, and then if there is a fatality in the Israelis, they will call it violence and terrorism. But what Israel has been, the Israeli government has been doing in Gaza Strip and in the Palestinian territories in general is a state terror, because just the blockade itself is against human rights and against the Geneva Conventions, and and the 3-week bombardment of civilians, UN schools, and mosques, universities, schools, and homes, and civilians are a perfect definition of terrorism. So it just I don't understand why they don't call it by its name.
You're watching Piece by Piece. I'm Jared Sandersfeld. I'm joined this evening by Yasser Abudaga. We're discussing the Gaza conflict. If you'd like to share a comment, feel free to call in. The number will show up on the screen for you. So, continuing on off of that, with this somewhat lingering ceasefire, as it could be described, how do you see the role of the international community at this point?
Well, the international community has a role to play here, and they have to step in and say, the Palestinian has suffered enough, and there is enough UN resolution to resolve this problem, and the problem, the resolution is easy, is in the occupation, and create a viable Palestinian state with Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, its capital, and allow the refugee to go back to their home, or at least give them the option to go back to their homes, and this can be done easily and quickly. It's just the thing is the domination of the pro-Israeli lobby with the U.S. government is preventing this from happening, and every time anybody try to move toward this solution, the Israeli lobby will exert pressure on at least the American government of George Bush at that time to not continue with this and trying to impose the Israeli solution to the problem, which is either forcing the Palestinian to go somewhere else, or forcing them into enclaves, and then continue to control the most of the Palestinian land, which they are building on it settlements, and that's the main obstacle to the peaceful solution of the problem, is the settlements that the Israelis are building on Palestinian lands, and those settlements are Jewish-only settlements, even though they are built on Palestinian lands, but the Palestinians and non-Jews are not allowed to live on those settlements, and then building roads that they are Jewish-only roads, that they are connecting those settlements into Israel proper, and they are not allowed to be used by the Palestinians. So the Palestinians, if they wanted to go to their work or to their schools, or they have to go around those roads, and sometimes they will be turned back. So it's the settlements. It's a huge problem. That is the obstacle to peace, not what the Israelis has been describing, that the Palestinians are the obstacle to peace. But Palestinian had agreed to a two-state solution, and they have said that they will agree to establish a state on Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem as their capital, which is only 22% of the historic Palestine, which is a generous offer from the Palestinians. Everybody's talking about the generous offer from Barak, which is, or the Israelis, which is basically reducing the Palestinian cities into enclaves, and this continued areas of Palestinian land that they will establish a state on, but that will never work, and no Palestinian leader can sign into this, because people would not agree to it after all that suffering and after all that oppression.
And what we're identifying at this point is potential major human rights violations, war crimes. Ban Ki-moon, the chief of the United Nations, says there will be an investigation. If more is found that is able to pursue by the United Nations and the Security Council, under this new administration, do you think that the United States will veto such resolutions?
Well, I hope not. But the thing is the Israeli occupation forces has been committing genocides and terror acts against the Palestinians for a long time now, and every time there is a try or an effort to bring those responsible into justice by calling into investigation, this gets blocked by a U.S. veto. And everybody remember in 2006 when the Israeli invaded Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and they attacked the UN headquarters there too in the southern Lebanon, which was used for as a shelter for civilians. And there was outcries for war crimes investigation and all that stuff, and all was blocked, and nothing happened. So I'm afraid that this is going to happen again, but I'm optimistic that this time they will not get away with the crimes that they committed, and this probably will be good for the peace process, because if the Israelis are not getting away with what they're doing, that probably will put a stop to their aggression and make them realize that the only way forward is to live peacefully and let the Palestinian have their state, instead of trying to break their will and impose solutions on them.
And there certainly is a new administration, and it was announced earlier today that George Mitchell was selected for the new Obama administration's Middle East envoy. Do you see possibilities under his leadership?
I think so. It has been historically that most of the Middle East envoys were selected pro-Israeli negotiators, which is make it harder to negotiate with them if you know that they are prejudging you and they are on the other side. But if you have an honest, unbiased negotiator, then that will give him more credibility and more freedom to work to find a peaceful and justful solution. And by selecting Mitchell, I think this is a step forward. And there was a Mitchell plan that was introduced after the collapse of Camp David in 2000. And this was a good plan. It's just the thing is it wasn't picked up by anybody, because the players that were involved weren't they weren't government-backed individual, but they are intellectuals and some activists that they try to find a solution to the problem. But with Mitchell now as an official envoy to the U.S., to the Middle East, I think he can bring this plan of his back and negotiate an even-handed solution to the problem. So I'm seeing a hope with that, but we'll wait and see, and hopefully things will be better, and this violence and nonsense stops, and the peace and justice will prevail, hopefully.
With such an ongoing conflict, I'm just curious that ideally, from being a Gazan yourself, what would be the ideal circumstance, and then what would be the viable solution?
Well, for me and for a lot of Palestinian that they're I'm not sure if it's a lot of Palestinian, but a lot of people that I talk to is from the way that the Israelis are developing the West Bank and the settlements. Seems like the two territories are so entangled that a one-state solution will be the ideal solution. One man, one vote. Will be no discrimination between an Israeli, a Palestinian, a Jewish, or Muslim, or Christian, and then everybody will be living in peace, which is the ultimate solution to the problem. It's just the problem is that Israelis has been saying that Israel is a Jewish-only state, and that's what it prevents this kind of solution.
Which isn't actually accurate, because my understanding is that's somewhat more diverse than just perspective from one theology.
Right, and there is, and that's what they're trying to do with the non-Jewish population in Israel now is they're trying to discriminate against them, trying to leave, trying to and then one suggestion by the foreign minister of Israel, Livni, that says that if there is a Palestinian state, then the Palestinians or the Arabs that live in Israel have to move to the Palestinian state, which is in my view is ethnic cleansing, and it shouldn't be allowed to be said and just not being questioned. Just the idea of a Jewish-only state is a racist idea, because if you come and say I would create a black-only state in Iowa and then push all the whites out, this would be a racist state, and a lot of people will be objecting to it. But I don't know why they're not seeing it that way in Israel, that they are trying to create a Jewish-only state while there is Palestinians that they're living there, there are Muslims, there's Christians that they're living there, and they're being discriminated against. And this has not been a problem before, because I remember my grandpa told me that before the creation of the State of Israel, there was Christians, Muslims, and Jews living together, and with no problems, and they were neighbors, and they were part of the community, and there was no conflict in that. So that's my view, is if you let people live free, they will live together peacefully. And just when you try to make some ethnic group or some religion group as the masters and the rest are slaves, then that's when you create problems.
In Israel being a democracy, I mean, diversity and openness and the idea of everyone coming together to resolve problems seems to be something deeply embraced in that concept, and this seems antithetical to that concept altogether.
Right. Yeah, it is, and that's the thing, is they're saying that's the only democracy in the Middle East, but it seems it's a democracy for Jewish only to participate in, and then they're creating the apartheid system that will give the Jewish population all the rights, and then the Palestinian has no rights, and so it's true it's a democracy, but it's just for one people, not for all the people that they live in the area, which is and then they're bragging about the democracy of Israel, while when the Palestinian exercised democracy and elected the wrong people, they get punished for it. So it seems like there is a different definition of democracy that they are dealing with than the democracy that we know.
Switching gears a little bit, and more about Gaza and your experiences. When was the last time you went back?
It was 3 years ago, before the blockade was in place. I was able to get in. It was still difficult to get in and out, even at that time.
How does it work? There's one border region?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Since I'm Palestinian, I cannot fly into Israel. So I have to fly into Egypt, into the Cairo airport, and then I had to take a taxi ride to the border, which is about 6 or 7 hours drive, and then of course the borders will be dependent on the monitors are when the Israelis would withdrew from Gaza, they implemented an agreement with Egypt that the borders will be only open for pedestrians, so no cars, no goods, nothing will be coming in, and then they only will be opened if the European monitors are there, so to monitor who's getting in and who's getting out. And the trick that they had is that the monitors will live in Israel, so whenever they wanted to close the borders, they wouldn't allow the monitors to come in into Gaza Strip. So I got there, and then at that time there was something going on, and they didn't allow the monitors in, so I had to stay in the coastal town of El Arish in Egypt for a week until they opened the borders, and then I got into Gaza Strip from there.
So it's the Egyptian Gazan border, but yet Israeli guards are at this border?
No, they're not at this border, but there is the European monitors that they are put in place with the agreement when the Israelis pulled out of Gaza with the Egyptian government, which is a pro-Western government that is a dictatorship that is, but it was still in place by, and it's called our friend in the region, but it's not a friend of its people or any of the people around there. So they would have the monitors at the borders, but those monitors live in Israel. So if Israel wanted to close the border, they wouldn't allow the monitors in. So, and then Egypt wouldn't open the borders unless the monitors are there. So this is how they controlled the borders.
And so you stayed in Egypt for a week before
I was able to get in. And that's the thing is you don't know. You go there and then you don't know if the borders are open or not, and you just kind of it's a draw of the luck. It's just and then it's the same way when I tried to get out, the borders were closed and I had to wait, and I had to call in work because my vacations were up, and then I told them, look, this is my situation, and I need some more time, and they were really nice, and they understood the situation, and then they said that I just need to be safe, and I can get in whenever it's safe for me to come back.
So missed a flight potentially?
Well, that's the thing is missed a flight, and then in the peak of the season you try to find. So it was an expensive trip, at least, but I can't complain. I'm getting it easy compared to the people that they live there.
What did you see when you went?
It was devastating because the bombardment of the Israelis did not just only started last 3 weeks. The bombardment of Gaza Strip by the Israeli Air Force has started a long time ago, and there was a lot of buildings in ruin, a lot of buildings that has been bulldozed, a lot of roads were bulldozed, and of course the airport. I went and visited, and they had bombed the airport and the runways. So it was a systemic development of the Gaza Strip. It's just to keep the Palestinian people undeveloped and organized, so they wouldn't have strong leadership, and that's the policy of the Israeli government, and that was highlighted by the chief of staff of Israel, Moshe Yaalon. He said that we need to make the Palestinians understand that they are a defeated people. That's basically what they wanted to do is just break their will and make him agree to any solution that gets imposed on them.
And have you, as your family who lives there, have they ever been able to travel out?
Well, the thing is, since the blockade started, nobody was able to get in and out. My mom wanted to come for my first daughter when was she born 2.5 years ago, and she was able to get out just last month before the bombardment started. So it was extremely difficult for people to get in and out, and the only way that she was able to get out is that she had to register with the Palestinian Authority, and then with the coordination of the Egyptian and the Israelis that she needs medical attention, and that's when they opened the border once every 2 or 3 months. They had a list of people that they need to really need to get out, and she was able to get out at that time. So it's extremely difficult for people to get in and out. I was supposed to go back there 2 years ago for my brother's wedding, but I wasn't able to go because of the closure. I was in the region last year, and I tried to get in, and the closure was still in place, and I wasn't allowed to get in.
So, for example, your brother's wedding, had you traveled? You arrived in Egypt, or you were still in the United States?
No, I was in the region. I traveled. I did not go to Egypt, but I was in Jordan and just waiting for the borders to open. So because I have relatives in Jordan, I don't have anybody in Egypt to stay with, and I was waiting for the border to open, so I will fly in. But I was there for 3 weeks, and my vacation were gone, and I couldn't get in, so I had to come back. That's basically how people are in there. Is just gonna wait and see if there is a way that they can get in or out, and just wait for that one day opening of the borders every 2 or 3 months that allow, and they're not going to allow anybody in or anybody out. They usually only allow the people that they either have medical needs that they need to go out, or sometimes students that they need to go out. And a lot of students are still trapped in Gaza for 3 years now, that they were studying abroad, and a lot of them, college students, a lot of them actually some of them they had a Fulbright scholarship from the State Department here in the United States, and they weren't able to get in and to get out from Gaza Strip, and their visas were waived, and their scholarships were taken away because they weren't able to come back to their schools.
Oh, wow. So when the border is open, is there a limited number? Like there's a certain number of people?
Yeah, there will be lists.
Medical or? Yeah,
there will be lists prepared in advance, and that was given to the Israeli to approve, and then the Egyptian will get this list and then allow those people on the list only to get out. So every 2 or 3 months, about 1,000 people will be allowed out. So out of 1.5 million people, 1,000 is a drop in the bucket, because a lot of people in Gaza Strip are dependent on obtaining medical services from outside, since the medical services are not up to par in Gaza, and a lot of them dependent on going abroad to study. A lot of the students, since there's only one university in Gaza Strip, and that was bombed during the bombardment. So that tells you how much the suffering of the Palestinian people, and how much oppression that the Palestinians in Gaza have endured during the not just the recent bombardment, but throughout the occupation, and the last 40 years of occupation and 60 years of oppression and just homelessness for the refugees.
And so this currently is a major medical situation. There's limited beds available in Gaza hospitals, as well as hospitals face attacks during this conflict. Do you know if there has been an increase of medical supplies and medical physicians being able to gain access most recently?
I know that they let about probably 2 dozens of doctors to come in from Egypt and the Arab countries into Gaza Strip, but the problem is with the capacity. Some of the hospital has been bombed during the bombardment, and then it just you have 5,000, more than 5,000 injured people, and with limited supplies of medication and medical supplies, and the limited number of beds in Gaza Strip. There was really a near collapse of the health system in Gaza Strip, and there was a trickle of some of the injured people coming out from the Gaza Strip, but they're hateful that they're not enough. And
so there's limitations on these individuals being able to
absolutely, and there was of course the citation of the danger of getting those people out, and then the limited opening of the crossing to get those people out. So the people are really, Gaza Strippers are really in need of medical supplies, but those are trickling in, and they're not enough. They're only coming from the borders with Israel. Those have been donated from our countries, from the UN, but the problem is getting them in and quick enough into Gaza Strip.
Definitely. And so you now live in the United States. How is the immigrant situation to the United States, or for those who do live in Gaza? Naturally, one would want to live, in their home or what have you. But for those that have the desire to immigrate from this region for various reasons, is it difficult to do so?
Absolutely, it's difficult. First, because of the blockade, people cannot get in and out.
Definitely.
And then the second thing is there's no access to any of the U.S. embassies or consulates in the region, because there is not one in Gaza Strip, but there is one in Jerusalem that was supposed to be taking care of the Palestinian in Gaza, but the problem is traveling to it. A couple of years ago, my sister just wanted to visit, and she applied for the visa, and she was granted an interview with the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem, but then she wasn't allowed to go there because she wasn't permitted by the Israelis to cross the borders to Jerusalem. So it's difficult to get access to any of the foreign embassies or any of the processes to obtain visas to get out from the Gaza Strip, let alone just getting out or having access to just any other country. It's just it's basically a big prison that is 1.5 million Palestinians are living in. It's an open air prison that is implemented in Gaza Strip.
And it's difficult to understand, in respect to humanity, how so many aspects of this can actually take place
right.
today.
And that's the thing is,
And
unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't know about this because of the biased media here, and they're showing that the Israelis are the victims and the Palestinians are the terrorists, and they are the one that they're out to destruct the Israeli community. But
there.
all right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on Piece by Piece.
They fight their oil war.
So,
National Geographic, Times Picayune. They forecast the apocalypse. It was coming soon. Preparations must be made, they said. Now is the time. It was years ago, they shouted. Inaction was a crime. They said the dikes must be improved and the wetlands must be saved. But Washington decided instead they should leave. 'Cause laws were more important than people's lives.